Welcome to the most recent episode of Dude, Where's My Money? Ian Aguilar, my counterpart, is joining, and this is Scott Snyder. We work for Mellon Money Management, a fee-only financial firm here in Ponte Vedra, Florida. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different format than what we've done in the past. Usually you saw us in our cars. This time we're adding basically what's known as pardon the interruption kind of style to it. For those that aren't sports enthusiasts like Ian and I, it's basically we're adding more structure to our video.
Yeah.
So today's episode really is going to focus on a few topics, but I think the general theme is around some of the racial inequalities that exist right now, and injustices that are occurring, and the economics of that.
Yeah, and we've seen it, right? I mean, it's front page and center right now. That's the topic du jour, and it should be in all fairness. I mean, the biggest story surrounding George Floyd, you see so many things happening left and right with this video of him being choked out for multiple minutes. Has been hard to stomach for myself. I mean, to be honest, I can only watch it once, and I just had to move on because it's that infuriating to me. But it's tough, and it's not something you can avoid in any way. I mean, it'll be curious to see how this all plays out over time. And you've seen a lot of people react in a whole different ways.
It's
across the board.
It's been tough, and I think the country's healing right now, going through a lot of healing with the whole coronavirus, and it really impacting more of the African American Black communities more. So
2020 just keeps hitting us straight in the face.
Yeah, it's got to be one of the worst years in a long time. So the first point is talking about just that racial inequality. So you've got George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery. They've all been wrongfully killed in one way or another. Oftentimes, police is involved, and so it's a little disheartening, I think, for the Black community when they see the video of that of him being choked out for 9 minutes, and there was really no need from that officer to restrain him, from what I saw. I mean, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's incredible that it's even, I mean, real life, to be honest. It's just shocking that would even happen. And it's not like he was there by himself, there's others around him.
So 4 officers, not one of them intervened, and only one of them is being charged with a third-degree murder.
So shows that culture being ingrained in that environment to a certain extent, which is not what you want to hear out loud, is that there's a culture of that being accepted.
No. And yeah, I mean, it's just by and large, the police are very much something that is there to protect us, but like in anything in life, they're bad actors. And
it's
unfortunate that it's happening more and more to the Black community than it is the white.
And there's only in all the world, there's really very few, if any, other organizations where the lowest man in the totem pole in an organization has that much power to be able to do something like this. So that's where you kind of see police forces being kind of put on the spotlight now, as they should be, because the control factors there are that much more important.
So what do you think about, I think it was the founder of BET said this, that he thinks that there should be $14 trillion in reparations.
Yeah, I mean, I've always heard the idea of reparations. I mean, that's not anything new. And I heard that interview that he had, and he talked about how, in general, the idea of slavery was a wealth transfer, right? Because these people were working for free while other people were making money and getting rich off of it. So that I completely understand. And I'm sure if you were to put market returns behind how much money those people made to what it would be now, 14 trillion probably wouldn't even do it justice. But
is 14 trillion realistic?
Yeah, I think that type of program might not be as realistic. You know, even if it was justifiable, you don't see that being something that I don't think would ever pass in Congress or anything like that. You would just run into too many roadblocks. But there are things that can be done. I think whether it's education. I think there's another CEO out there that spoke to that, and I think it's very important that we put things in place to create a better system overall.
That's a systemic problem right now. I mean, that's really what it boils down to is economics and obviously the racial divide that has been in our history since really the Civil War and before that, but with the start of slavery. But I mean, the numbers are obvious. I mean, you've got $40,000 income for blacks, $60,000 for whites, average income. So, you know, the average black person's house is worth 23% less. So it's just like their communities are being devalued in a way, whether that's intentional or just it's been bad systems in place to get them integrated into equalizing things. But I can see where the need for reparations or something, programs like that would help, you know, rise that part of the population up.
Well, because it doesn't happen overnight, right? I mean, like we've gotten to those disparities in income didn't happen just, you know, it's not like we can flip a switch and bring it back. It's something we've got to work towards. But the idea of reparations is, hey, hopefully this is something that can bridge the gap between now when we actually do make it so that everything's equal. So it's if you want to give something to help people in the meantime, great, whether it's reparations or what have you. But to our point earlier, it's how do we change the system so that we don't have this issue going forward? People want answers, you know, people are tired. I'm tired of hearing, you know, the same old stuff over and over again. So it's what has caused people to act out.
Right. I mean, you need businesses and the public sector, you know, the government to step in, both at the federal and state level, and even at the local community level. I think it's a concerted effort that needs to happen before any real change can be enacted. Because I think this is just generally speaking, the wealth gap in America has gotten really bad when you look at the people at the top versus the people at the bottom. There are people that are of other backgrounds that are also struggling right now. And I think that really the Great Recession that we saw back in 2008, it hasn't really improved since then for the people. There's a group of people that have been left behind.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. But I mean, that's where you're seeing now to our next point, you know, there's protests, there's riots, there's all it's happening. People want to be heard. People want something to be done. I mean, we even had one here last night in Octi. I know that they closed down their little roundabout here in Ponte Vedra, which is, you know, a predominantly white neighborhood.
I had to pick up my daughter both of our daughters from daycare because of that. I mean, it was, but I mean, I think a peaceful protest is okay. I mean, I have no problem with that. And I think I think
it should be done.
It is time to demonstrate, you know, to bring attention to this. However, I do have a problem with the rioting and the looting. And I think that leads into a video clip we actually have from a gentleman named Killer Mike. And he, I think, does it justice. So we're going to play that clip for you guys here.
So I'm duty bound to be here to simply say that it is your duty not to burn your own house down for anger with an enemy. It is your duty to fortify your own house so that you may be a house of refuge in times of organization. And now is the time to plot, plan, strategize, organize, and mobilize.
Thank you for watching that clip. Hopefully you saw the passion in Killer Mike. I mean, I think that he says it best, right?
Yeah. I mean, he's hits the nail on the head. I mean, we've got to do stuff that is, the protests are great and people hear the voices. I think that's important, but then it's the follow through, right? How do you make change, and how do you make sure you go out and vote, and make sure you are following through with actions that will affect the end result. And that's what you're seeing, in my opinion. I mean, for me, even when I see protesters who are saying things like that, that's what hits home. Not the writing piece. I mean, I think that definitely takes away from.
I mean, you can get the anger, but to his point, it's you got to look out for your own communities. You're only hurting yourselves.
Yeah.
You're shooting yourselves in the foot and I think, quite frankly, there's some bad actors that are using this as an opportunity to take advantage of what's going on.
100%. And I mean, at the same token, like I to your point, I understand people getting frustrated, right? I think that there's that analogy. If you're on the phone with Comcast for so long, and eventually they don't listen to your request for service, and you get frustrated, and you start yelling at the guy on the phone, even though he probably didn't do anything. He's just another guy on the phone. But
right.
That's the same symptom that's happening. Enough is enough, and people freak out and do something, and sometimes it's not the right thing. That doesn't make it excusable either.
Yeah. We've definitely hit a boiling point in this country, and it's interesting because the media focuses on that, but I thought it was a nice little tweet from LeBron James where he said, the nonviolent protests aren't the ones that are kind of being left by the wayside, like the one that occurred in Denver, and basically people laid down on the ground and said, "I can't breathe" for 9 minutes straight.
Yeah. I mean, that hits home, right? I mean, that's as potent as it gets, in my opinion. So it's nice to see those things. But now we just hope that things follow through after the fact.
So leads into our next point here is, I mean, all this kind of ties into is capitalism dead? I mean, is maybe the system of capitalism the problem? As a financial advisor, this sounds weird.
It's funny, it's funny because it's almost like so this is a point that gets brought up in a lot of different things. Obviously here it's a little bit, more potent, but also even in our bang ups with China, because China's the opposite, right? China's just almost the complete socialist, almost communist type of country, and we're the complete capitalist type of society. And so it's trying to see what works, what doesn't work. A lot of people obviously see the downsides of capitalism in certain events here in the States, where people are focusing purely on profits in certain times, and so they're looking to benefit shareholders versus stakeholders, right? It's the whole idea.
Yeah.
But you've seen this huge push over the last few years, and basically this socially responsible type of investing, whether it's however you want to call it, impact investing, ESG investing, SRI. Yep. There's all different kinds of way that people do it. But that whole idea of investing in a different way to bring not only profits but impact, I think is pretty cool, and I think it's pretty unique, and it ties so well into what's going on, even with the situation with the racial injustices happening. You've seen a few companies jump onto that.
Right. You're talking stakeholders versus shareholders, right? I mean, I think companies are going to have to start focusing more on the stakeholder rather than the shareholder as things evolve. And I think that's where capitalism maybe has fallen short, is it's so shareholder focused that there's this huge disconnect between what the stock markets are doing and what Main Street is feeling. And markets have almost recovered, 2/3 of the losses, if not more. But I would say the person on Main Street is feeling much differently and worried about, do they have a job? And that's, I think it goes back to the wealth gap and the haves and the have-nots, that gap widening. And it's just, I think that's where the system needs to be reworked.
Yeah, but I mean, I think you're right. But you see companies doing that. I mean, or at least starting to pay attention to it. I think. So this is an interesting number. 2013, only 20% of S&P 500 companies used to disclose ESG information. So all the environmental, social, and governance type of statistics that a lot of people look to make decisions on who's being responsible in regards to stakeholders, not just shareholders.
Sure.
Now, there's over 85% of S&P 500 companies do that because you've seen such a growth in that.
But how many of that, I mean, this is just me being the skeptic that I am, how much of that is BS?
I mean, some of it probably is, and some of it, and that's part of how this whole ESG sector of this whole is how it's growing. I mean, it's some of these companies are maybe BS, and some of them are for real. And I think it's how do you look into that? How do you find opportunities from an investing standpoint? Because I mean, there's been plenty of studies that show the more that you are active in certain social elements of how your company is affecting your stakeholders, that it will in the end come back to your shareholders as well. That whole idea has been studied and is actually being played out to a certain extent for a lot of the companies that are at the top of reporting those ESG numbers.
I mean, I guess like going back to this whole capitalism versus socialism debate, like a lot of people like to draw parallels to China. China's communist. I wouldn't call them socialists.
That's true. That's true.
And I look at places more like Sweden, Finland, and Norway, and they have more socialist types of government structures, and the people there live longer, they're happier. I mean, I guess that's my point is they're the people that like to push the capitalist agenda, maybe because it benefits them. And maybe there's some happy medium where you can find a fusion between the two. And I think still incentivize people for wanting to take business risks. We started a business. I want to be incentivized for that. But at the same time, I don't need $1 billion, be worth $1 billion. Like some of these billionaires out there, it's like there's almost too much money to be had sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to strip America of what made America great, but yeah, there is a point where maybe I think kind of to our point is it goes too far. So I don't think capitalism is dead, but maybe there is a point in which it's gone too far, and that's kind of the question is when is it too far, and then what do you do at that point? And then that's hopefully where some of this different style of investing can hopefully bring it back a little bit.
Social good.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the next point here with the CFOs prediction on the Dow. Right now, 51% of CEOs are betting that the Dow is going to go back to 19,000 before we hit another record high, which would be above 29,000 on the Dow. As of I don't know, today we're right around 25,000 and some change, maybe 26,000 now that the market's up again today. But we're right in that range. What are your thoughts on what the CFOs are saying about the Dow? I think it's pretty striking. I do think that, they're just starting to feel the pain of what's going on. So I'm sure that response is somewhat reactionary too. What I think is extremely striking is if you look even closer to those numbers, North America CFOs, I think it's 33% of them said that they felt that we were going to break into new highs. 47% said we were going to go back below 19,000, and another 20% said they weren't sure. But you go and look at some of the other parts of the world, in particular Europe, the Middle East, and African CFOs, and they're extremely negative. They're only 10% say that they think we're going to go into new highs. 70% think they're going to go back below 19,000. So make America great again?
I mean,
I'm being a
also
smart
think
ass.
that shows that there's a little bit more confidence and a little bit more ability to weather this storm in some of the American companies for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think the resiliency of the American economy has proven itself time and time again. So don't bet against it.
Yeah.
At the same time, who knows what this virus is going to bring us in the fall. So I think both of us are cautiously optimistic, but
a great word that a lot of people love to use.
I know it's the biggest cop out, right?
Yeah. But no, I mean, I think to your point, there's a lot of strategies out there that can help you be a part of the market.
Sure.
While also hedging some of your bets. So
putting a floor in place.
Yes.
There's definitely that element out there that exists, and we certainly have done some of that for our clients.
Yeah, and it's usually that it's usually using options as a way to tap into potential of the market or shielding yourself from losses of the market. How you do that, how you make that, slice that up. There's 1,000 different ways. I don't know if you've got one in particular that you think is better than the other, but
there's a lot of ways to do it. I think proper asset allocation at the end of the day solves a lot of the problems.
Yep.
So that the investor can stomach the risk and see, okay, my account's down this much. I've got $1 million. It went down to $900,000, $100,000 loss, but there's only 10% when you really boil it down. But $100,000 is a lot of money.
It's a lot
of
money.
I think when you put it in dollars and seeing somebody's reaction to that in real time really puts some perspective. And so I think that's where working with an advisor or working with an expert to help determine what you're comfortable with in terms of risk reward is really only to your benefit as an investor, so that you stay the course.
Yeah. I mean, think about it too. I mean, these people have worked so long for this type of money. Typically, people say, "Oh yeah, I'm comfortable with a 20-25% loss," and they see that dissipation of wealth that they've worked for God knows how many years. And there's a different type of reaction sometimes that people didn't realize they had. Absolutely.
I mean, your 500,000 goes to 100,000 or 400,000.
Yeah.
That's 20%. But people, we talk in terms of percentages too much, and people think in terms of dollars. That's 100%. The real disconnect sometimes.
100%. And now we got, and then you go to our last point, right? A little bit of fun in the sun is to talk about sports. These people, work so long. I think about the NBA in particular. Like, they've worked all year long trying to get prepared, or even the Olympics, man. You think about this. You waited 4 years trying to get all your act in order for this one special moment, and then all of a sudden it's gone. It's stripped away from you.
No, as a LeBron James fan, I was disappointed. I hope the NBA comes back for playoffs, because it was nice to see the Lakers on top. I'm more of a follow the player type in the NBA.
Yeah, you're not alone.
What do you think is going to happen with the fans being able to attend? Do you think there's going to be some capacity constraints? Obviously, there is, but at what level?
I mean, you've already seen some teams, like I know the Dolphins said they're capping it at a certain number, and obviously that'll change between now and the time the actual season begins. Even if you look across the pond, they're putting paper fans in the stands to try and emulate that reaction from the players.
Are they really doing that?
Oh yeah, they put paper. They put a whole bunch of paper people in the stands to try and create that atmosphere to a certain extent. So it didn't feel like I saw the German soccer league, the Bundesliga play, and it just felt like nothing was going on, because there was just one guy would kick the ball and it would bounce off, and you could just hear it cut through the air. I feel like it didn't feel the same.
It's not going to, but at least they're getting to play. And at least it's, us as fans that get to watch it on TV.
Yep. And think about it. I mean, I got to imagine that when sports here in the States come back, I mean, there's going to be ads through the roof because people are going to be watching on TV. I tell you, I'm itching to watch on TV, and I don't know if that's a play or not, but I mean, TV ads for sure will be priced high because I think they're going to try and make some of the money that they've lost in the last few months back. Some of those companies that are looking to recapture so much of the time that they've lost out on.
Yeah. Well, I think kind of wrap up this whole conversation we've had today, a quote from Jalen Rose, who was a basketball player for the Fab Five back in the day. He's now a sports commentator. He said, "I wish America loved Black people the way they love Black culture." And I think hopefully we as a nation can start unifying around this issue. And really, I think, what's the saying, about tides rising all boats?
Yeah, the high tide rising, I don't know, something to that effect.
Yeah, we're both butchering that completely. But I think people get the point that, really it's the little guy that we need to bring up. And it's for all Americans, really, at the end of the day. But there's certainly been, the statistics back it up, that the Black communities out there have been suffering the most, and hopefully we see things change. So Thank you for joining in, and hopefully you enjoyed our new format. Look forward to bringing you more content here in the future.
Take it easy, guys.